Today we're installing our Mondo Mudguard kit. The installation process is the same for both sides. Here are the tools you will need to complete this project. We're going to start on the passenger side by turning the wheels all the way to the right. This will give us easy access to the two T25 Torx head screws on the outer edge, as well as the plastic hex nut on the inside of the wheel well. Then, we'll need to go under the van to remove another hex nut. Take care while reinstalling these, as they can strip easily. Once these are removed, you can easily take off the mud flap. Now, we're going to pull back the fender liner to access the tabs that hold this fender guard in place. Carefully find and pull all 4 tabs on the back of this trim piece. Next, we'll take our impact driver to remove these 3 hex bolts. This allows us to bend this piece of the fender downwards. You'll want to score the seam sealant here with an X-Acto knife. And then remove the hex nut on the back side of the frame. While we're down here, we're going to remove the plastic hex nut that keeps this little bracket in place. We'll need to make a slight modification to it in a bit. Now back to the front side, you might need to cut into the seam sealant a little more to remove the fender piece entirely. We'll then come back in and remove the excess seam sealant. Now, on the OEM fender piece, you'll want to retrieve these 2 metal tabs. And we're going to slide them onto our Mondo Mudguard piece, just like this. Included in our kit is another plastic clip that slides onto the other side of this piece. Now we need to line up the fender piece from earlier with our Mondo Mudguard piece. Set the tabs into the Mudguard piece so they fit together nicely. We need to drill a hole into the fender piece, so we're going to take a Sharpie and mark where we need to drill. Take your drill with a 1/16 inch drill bit to create a hole in the fender piece. Now, we need to bend the forward pinch weld. This line here is approximately where we need to make a bend. Go ahead and take a hammer to this section to bend it inwards. And we'll fit the Mondo Mudguard into place and screw the top 3 bolts back in. Now add one of the included hex bolts to the bottom of the Mondo Mudguard. Then we'll go under the van and screw the hex nut back into place to fully secure our Mondo Mudguard. Now, in order for the fender liner to fit properly, we'll need to cut a small portion of it just like this. That way it sits flush with the mudguard. Remember that little bracket we removed from under the van? We need to bend the top lip so that the bottom of the bracket is about 2 inches from where it started. It'll look something like this after you've bent it. Now, back under the van, we're going to reinstall the bracket so that it holds the fender liner back a little further than it did before. Screw in the hex nut to the top of the bracket, and then attach the bottom of the bracket to the fender liner and screw in the second hex nut to the bottom of the bracket. Be sure not to over-tighten these. Now, we can reattach the OEM mud flap. Fit it into place and screw the inner hex nut back on. Then reinstall the 2 T25 Torx head screws. We'll now need to drill a hole about 1 inch to the left of this circular marking point. Make sure it goes all the way through the fender liner. It'll hit the section we folded over earlier. Then, use one of the supplied 1.5 inch Phillips head screws and screw it all the way in. Lastly, we're going to take the OEM fender piece and snap it back into place, lining up all 4 of the tabs. Now, open the passenger door to access the hole we drilled earlier and screw in the last Phillips head screw until tight. And there you have it. Mondo Mudguard installed. Plenty of space for bigger wheels.